Hello, my dear friend. Today I will share with you a warm and lively story about my family and our daily routine. It is not always quiet. It is a story of love, laughter, and the ups and downs that make life real. So, let's step into a day with my family. The morning begins before the sun is fully awake. I open my eyes to the sound of the alarm clock buzzing loudly beside me. I press the button once, then twice, hoping for just a few more minutes. But from the kitchen, I hear the voice of my mother calling. Wake up. Breakfast is almost ready. The smell of toast drifts through the house, warm and inviting. Still, I move slowly, dragging myself from bed. In the next room, my little sister is already awake, but she is not getting dressed. She is sitting on the floor, playing with her dolls, while her school uniform hangs untouched on the chair. Come on, my father says, his voice half serious, half amused. He tries to tie his tie while also urging my sister to hurry. But the tie keeps twisting the wrong way, and he sighs with frustration. Why is this thing always against me? He mutters. My older brother storms into the kitchen, his hair wild, his face still sleepy. He grabs a glass of milk and drinks it too fast, coughing as it goes the wrong way. Slow down, my mother warns, but she is too busy flipping eggs in the pan to notice the mess he leaves behind on the counter. The table is half set, plates here, spoons missing, jam open but without a knife. It looks less like a calm breakfast and more like a battlefield. I sit down, yawning, just as my sister spills orange juice across the table. The bright liquid spreads quickly, dripping toward the edge. Not again, my mother cries, rushing for a towel. In the middle of this chaos, the toast pops up from the toaster, slightly burned at the edges. My father groans. Perfect, black toast, just how I don't like it. But he eats it anyway, too rushed to care. We all sit together for a few moments, chewing quickly, speaking over each other, laughter mixing with complaints. It is noisy, messy, but strangely comforting. This is the sound of my family starting another day. Then the real rush begins. My sister still does not have her shoes on. My brother cannot find his homework. My father looks for his keys, turning pockets inside out. And my mother keeps repeating, "We are late, we are late." Finally, we tumble out the door, carrying bags, books, and half-finished thoughts. The morning air is cool, the street busy with neighbors doing the same. Children dragging backpacks, parents calling, buses rumbling by. As we walk, the chaos begins to settle. The sound of our footsteps falls into rhythm. We are tired, a little frustrated, but also together. And even in the rush, I feel something warm. This is our family, imperfect, but ours. The day has only begun, and already it feels like a story worth telling. When we reach the bus stop, the family separates into different paths. My father heads to the train station for his commute. My mother goes to the office, and my brother, sister, and I climb onto the school bus. The bus is crowded and noisy, filled with children laughing, shouting, and sharing secrets. My sister holds her backpack tightly, her small face serious, as if she is about to enter a battlefield. At school, the morning begins with the bell ringing sharp and loud. My sister joins her classmates, but I can tell she is nervous. Today is spelling test day, and she has been practicing all week. Still, her hands shake a little as she writes her name at the top of the paper. Later, when she tells me about it, I can hear the tension in her voice. I knew the first words, She says, but then I forgot the hard ones. My mind went empty. The teacher looked at me, and I wanted to disappear. I imagine her sitting there, pencil in hand, cheeks red with frustration. For a child, a spelling test can feel like the end of the world. But she kept writing, letter after letter, until the paper was full. And when she finally handed it in, she looked relieved, like a soldier returning from battle. Meanwhile, my older brother had his own struggle. He had forgotten his homework again. When the teacher asked for papers, his desk was empty. The room went quiet, all eyes on him. He shifted in his seat, trying to explain, but the words stumbled out. The teacher sighed, disappointed, and my brother sank lower in his chair, his confidence shrinking. He told me later, I don't mean to forget. It's just there's too much. I stay up late. I wake up tired, and my head feels like it's spinning. I could see the frustration in his eyes, a mix of guilt and anger at himself. For my father, the challenge is different. On the train, he practiced his presentation one last time, whispering to himself as the city rushed by. His company was holding an important meeting that morning. He had prepared slides, data, and numbers, but inside he carried doubt. Would his voice be strong enough? Would the managers listen? He adjusted his tie nervously, remembering how even at home the tie had fought against him. At the office, the meeting room was cold, the lights bright, and the faces around the table sharp with expectation. My father began to speak, but halfway through his presentation, the projector froze. The slides vanished, the screen turned blue, and the room filled with silence. Everyone stared at him. His hands grew sweaty, his throat dry. He tried to continue without the slides, but his voice cracked. Later, he told us, I wanted to crawl under the table, but I kept going. I had no choice. And then there was my mother. Her office looked calm on the outside. Rows of desks, people typing, phones ringing softly. But inside, the pressure was heavy. Her boss had given her a new project, with deadlines that felt impossible. She typed quickly, her eyes scanning numbers and reports, her mind racing. Every time she thought she was ahead, another email arrived, asking for more. By lunch, she had not eaten. By afternoon, her head ached from staring at the screen. She later said, work is not bad, but sometimes it feels like the work never ends. Like the more I do, the more it grows. So in different places, school, office, train, the members of our family fought their small battles. Some were about tests, some about work, some about confidence. Each of us carried our own worries, our own doubts. Yet even in the struggle, there were small victories. My sister remembered one of the hardest words at the last moment. Her face lit up with pride as she wrote it correctly. My brother, though embarrassed, promised himself to be better prepared next time. That promise, small as it was, gave him strength. My father's presentation, though shaky, ended with polite applause. His manager even told him, "Good job pushing through the problem." And my mother, tired and hungry, finally leaned back in her chair and whispered to herself, I survived today. When the school bell rang in the afternoon, we carried our stories home. Some of them heavy, some of them light, but we knew that when we returned to the same house, to the same dinner table, we would share them. And in sharing, the struggles would not feel so heavy anymore. The school bell rang, sharp and clear, and the long day finally ended. My sister walked out of her classroom with a tired but proud smile. She clutched her spelling test paper in her hands, waiting to show it to us. The red marks were not perfect, some mistakes, some corrections, but at the bottom was a small star drawn by her teacher. That star was enough to make her eyes shine. My brother came out slower, his steps heavy at first, but when he saw my sister's excitement, he straightened his back and forced a smile. He did not want to bring his disappointment home like a shadow. Instead, he said, "Guess what? Tomorrow, I'll remember everything. You'll see." My sister giggled, proud of her star, and the tension faded. The school bus rattled as we climbed inside. Children laughed, pushed, and shared snacks. My sister pressed her face against the window, pointing at every dog, cat, or bird she saw. "Look, look," she shouted, as if the world outside was a parade made just for her. My brother rolled his eyes, but his lips curled into a smile. Even I could not help laughing at her endless energy. When we arrived home, the front door opened and the smell of fresh bread drifted out. It was my mother. She had left work early for once, carrying both her heavy bag and a loaf of bread from the bakery. Her hair was messy, her shoulders slumped, but when she saw us, her face softened into a smile. "How was your day?" she asked. My sister shouted first. "I got a star." She held up her paper proudly. My mother clapped her hands together, her tired eyes brightening. "That's wonderful. I knew you could do it." My brother stayed quiet, but my mother pulled him close and kissed the top of his head. "You'll do better tomorrow. I believe in you." His cheeks turned red, but his shoulders relaxed. A few minutes later, the door opened again, and my father walked in. His tie was loose, his face pale, but when he saw us gathered together, he took a deep breath and smiled. "Well," he said, dropping his bag, "I survived a meeting, and I think the goat on the train platform was cheering for me." We all laughed, though none of us understood what he meant. But the laughter itself was enough. That afternoon, the house filled with voices. My sister danced around the living room, pretending to be a teacher, giving us a spelling test of her own. My brother played along, answering with silly words that made her laugh until she fell on the floor. Even my father, usually so serious after work, joined in, pretending to fail the test with the wrong answers on purpose. The room shook with laughter, and for a while, nobody thought of tired eyes, forgotten homework, or broken projectors. Later, my mother brought out the bread, still warm, and we sat together at the table with butter and tea. It was not a fancy meal, just bread torn with our hands, steam rising in the cool air. But somehow it tasted better than anything else we had eaten that week. We ate slowly, talking over each other, sharing the small victories and the small failures of the day. As the sun lowered outside, painting the sky with orange and pink, the house grew calm. The noise of the morning and the stress of the day seemed far away now. In their place was something softer. The comfort of being together, the joy of knowing that no matter what happened outside, here inside we belonged. For me, it was a moment of clarity. I realized that these afternoons, these ordinary times filled with laughter and bread, were the real treasures. Not the perfect test scores, not the successful meetings, not the long list of achievements. Just this, just family, sitting together, safe and warm. And as I watched my sister lick butter from her fingers and my father fall asleep in his chair, I thought, this is the kind of story I will always carry with me. A story not of greatness, but of joy. Evening arrived slowly, with the last rays of sunlight slipping behind the rooftops. Our home smelled of onions, garlic, and oil, the familiar beginning of dinner. My mother stood at the stove, stirring a pan while balancing the phone between her shoulder and ear. Her voice was quick, answering questions from work, but her hands moved faster, chopping vegetables, adding spices, pouring soup into a pot. My father tried to help, but his version of help was opening the fridge and asking, "Where's the sauce? Do we still have rice? Should I taste this first?" My mother gave him a look that said, "Please, just set the table." So he nodded quickly and began searching for plates. Meanwhile, my sister and brother argued in the living room. She wanted to watch cartoons before dinner. He wanted the news. The remote control became a treasure chest, fought over with serious determination. Voices grew louder, and suddenly, crash! The remote slipped, hit the floor, and the batteries rolled under the sofa. "Dinner!" My mother called, her voice sharp. The fight ended immediately, both kids rushing to the table as if nothing had happened. But the tension still clung to the air. When the food was ready, we all sat down. Steaming rice, fried vegetables, chicken, and soup filled the table with warmth. For a moment, there was peace, the clinking of spoons, the smell of fresh coriander, the comfort of eating together. But peace never lasts long in a busy family. My brother reached for the biggest piece of chicken. My sister shouted, "That's mine!" He laughed, teasing her by holding it just out of reach. She tried to grab it, and in the struggle, the plate tipped. Splash! Soup spilled across the table, running between the bowls, dripping onto the floor. "Not again," my mother sighed, rushing for a towel. My father grabbed the pot to keep it from falling, while I held my sister back from crying. For a moment, dinner felt like chaos all over again. My brother looked guilty. "Sorry," he muttered, his head low. My sister sniffled, her lip trembling. The room was quiet except for the sound of dripping soup. Then my father suddenly said, in a dramatic voice, "Well, at least now the table is fed too." We all stared at him in surprise, then burst into laughter. Even my sister laughed through her tears. The tension melted away, replaced by giggles and smiles. We cleaned the mess quickly, and my mother set down the towel with a sigh. "Next time, eat first, fight later," she said. Her voice was tired, but her eyes softened. After that, the meal continued more carefully. We shared stories from the day. My sister bragged about her spelling star. My brother promised again to finish his homework. My father told the goat on the train platform story properly this time, making us laugh so hard that rice nearly came out of my nose. Even my mother, though exhausted, leaned back and smiled. When dinner ended, we cleared the table together. Plates clinked, water ran, and soon the kitchen was filled with the smell of soap instead of garlic. It was teamwork, messy but united. Later, while my brother did his homework and my sister colored pictures, my parents sat together on the sofa. For once, there were no phones, no rushing, no shouting, just the quiet hum of the night, the warmth of the room, and the simple knowledge that even with spills, fights, and chaos, we were together. I realized then that dinner was more than food. It was the center of our family life. It was where we argued, forgave, and laughed. It was where we carried the struggles of the day and set them down on the table beside the rice and soup. And though our dinner was far from perfect, it was real, and in its messiness, it was beautiful. The night settled gently over the house. Outside, the streetlights flickered on, and the sound of cars faded into the distance. Inside, our home grew quieter, like a song slowly reaching its final notes. My sister lay on the floor with her coloring book, humming softly as she filled the pages with bright crayons. My brother sat at the table, his head bent over his homework. Every few minutes he sighed, but this time he did not give up. He was determined to keep his promise. The pencil scratched against the paper, steady and strong. In the kitchen, my mother washed the last of the dishes. Her hands moved slowly, tired from the long day, but her face was calmer now. My father dried the plates beside her, making small jokes about how he was the world's fastest towel worker. She rolled her eyes, but a smile curved her lips. It was their quiet way of resting together, side by side. Later, we gathered in the living room for one last time before bed. My father sat in his chair, reading the newspaper. My mother joined my sister on the sofa, listening to her talk about tomorrow's plans for school. My brother finally closed his notebook and raised his arms in triumph. "Finished," he shouted, as if he had won a great battle. We all clapped for him, laughing at his dramatic bow. Then came bedtime. My sister protested, as always. "5 more minutes," she pleaded, holding up her crayons. But my mother shook her head gently. "It's late. Tomorrow will come faster if you sleep." So my sister marched to her room, still pouting, but soon the sound of her soft breathing filled the hallway. My brother closed his door quietly, already half asleep before his head touched the pillow. He had fought his battles today, and sleep welcomed him like an old friend. In my own room, I lay down and stared at the ceiling. The house was still now. Only the faint creaks of wood and the ticking of the clock remained. I thought about the morning chaos, the spilled juice, the rushing feet. I thought about school and work, about tests and meetings, about the bread in the afternoon and the soup on the table. I thought about the laughter, the arguments, the moments of silence, and in all of it, I saw a pattern, a story, a truth. Family is not perfect. It is noisy, messy, sometimes frustrating, but it is also strong, loving, and full of small miracles. Every spilled cup, every lost remote, every late night sigh becomes part of something larger, the rhythm of our life together. Before I closed my eyes, I whispered to myself, "This is my family. This is our daily routine. And this is our story." With that thought, I drifted into sleep, carrying the warmth of the day with me, ready to wake up and begin it all again. Today, we shared a simple but meaningful journey through one day in my family's life. It was not a perfect day. There was noise, spilled juice, forgotten homework, and even a little drama at the dinner table. But there was also laughter, encouragement, and love. This is what family really is. It is not about being perfect. It is about being together, facing challenges, forgiving mistakes, and enjoying small moments of joy. Every day may look ordinary, but inside these ordinary days, we find extraordinary love. I hope this story helped you practice your English listening, but also gave you something deeper, a reminder that our daily routines are not just schedules. They are living stories, full of emotion and meaning. So, as you continue your own English learning, remember to also listen to the stories around you, your family, your friends, your daily life. That is where the real lessons begin. Thank you again for joining me. See you in the next story.